is it true for everyone? So we have these thoughts about money that goes through our head, and what most people say to me is four-letter words or, some degree of negativity. But they never really stop and think, oh, that's my thoughts about money. And every time I go buy a coffee or pay a bill or get my, kind of spreadsheet out to look at my finances, that's the thoughts that I'm bringing.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Jenny Bracelin, a business coach, mentor, and advisor with over 30 years of experience helping self-employed professionals and small business owners fall in love with their business again. Known for her heartfelt yet practical approach, Jenny supports service-based entrepreneurs from therapists to designers in moving beyond the hustle to build businesses that offer more time, money, and freedom. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Jenny.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
It's lovely to have you on. So when it comes to you starting your own coaching business, how did it all get started? What inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
Oh, I think I had many attempts at starting a coaching business. And so when I was young, I always was going to be a ballet dancer. So I grew up, I just spent all my evenings and weekends doing ballet, all my summer holidays on ballet schools. And I got to the stage where my teacher was like, you should start teaching classes. And I taught one class and she went, no, we can't have you teaching classes. You're way too harsh with all the little kids. And so I never became a teacher and thought, oh, I'm really not very good at that. But what I did do is all my seniors that were all trying to go to ballet schools and trying to get auditions at ballet companies, they would all come to me and go, Jenny, you're really good at giving feedback. What could I do to improve to make sure I get into this audition? Or how can I improve my technique to pass an exam? And so I kind of started coaching then, very informally, all my colleagues, and they used to give me chocolate. That was my first little coaching business. And then when I was 30, I'd sold my business, and I found that lots of people coming up to me, I got quite a lot of publicity, and people were like, you've run a business. What should I do with my business? And I really enjoyed answering those questions and helping people because I had kind of a creative background. I've got no financial training. I didn't work for a consultant or a bank. I've got a very unusual entrepreneur journey. And so I kind of found I had lots of creative people or people with dyslexics or neurodivergent, as we call them today, asking me to explain things or answer questions that they'd tried asking their accountant or their business advisor and hadn't found the right answer for them. And I discovered I absolutely loved it, and I was quite quick at it. And I looked at, should I do business advisor training or should I do coaching training? And I spent about a year kind of trying to decide. And I thought, well, I've just done sort of 5 years of personal development, and the coaching training was quite similar. So I decided to do the business advising training, which would teach me more about cash flows, marketing strategies, the technical side of running a business. And because I didn't have a business degree, I thought that would be a really useful thing to do. So by this stage, I had 3 businesses. And so I did the business advising training. And then it wasn't till about 10 years later when everyone's business coaching became really trendy. And so everyone called me, all my clients called me their business coach. And I was thinking, I've never actually got this coaching training, so maybe I ought to go and do it. So I think I was nearly 40 by the time I actually did like a 2-year certificate and diploma in coaching training from Warwick University, and then felt, okay, I could finally call myself a coach now. And so I'm a coach more by default because it's a well-publicized profession that people are understanding that if you run a business, having a business coach really helps. And so, but yeah, when people come to me, I still use a lot of my technical expertise, but I do mix and match whatever they need, whether it's mentoring, coaching, advising, whatever. They get it. They just get what they need.
And so it's been quite a few years, according to LinkedIn, about 24 years with the coaching business, right? Interesting. So, by the way, I love that. I love having senior coaches on the podcast because I get to learn another perspective. Obviously, coaching has changed a lot throughout the years, and now it's a different type of coaching. but the principles are, or the foundations still the same. Throughout these years of having that experience working with clients, by the way, are you working only with clients that are in London, or is it like worldwide?
I do worldwide except for US because the US needs insurance. So I have done American and Canadian clients, but they have to pay extra to cover the extra insurance costs. And then since Brexit, I'm not working quite so much with the European audience. I used to have a massive client base all over the islands, the Balearic Islands. So I had 30 clients in Mallorca. I got one, and then they all told people, and I suddenly had 30 in Mallorca, which is quite odd. Germany, France, Sweden, Norway. But before Brexit, it was challenging because you had to understand all their tax and law systems for running a business. But after Brexit, you had to, as a coach, coach is a registered profession in Europe. And so to work as a coach, for example, in Mallorca, then I'd have to register in Mallorca as a coach with an application in Spanish, which is fine because actually I speak Spanish, and pay a kind of registration every year to them. But then I'd also have to do it in Germany and France and Sweden and Norway. So unfortunately, due to Brexit, which is anyway, I generally don't have European clients unless they have a UK address now. So because it's a tricky one to do. So I generally work with clients across the UK, and I've still got a few clients. I've got a few clients in Germany who've got dual citizenship, and I've got a few clients in Australia randomly. But British speaking, English speaking places, I'd say, because my Spanish isn't good enough to do coaching in Spanish.
Interesting. I've never thought of like the effects of Brexit for some small businesses until you just mentioned that. Interesting. Now, you would say that the client base in Europe is obviously a lot smaller. So where's the majority? Is the majority in UK? And then for US, you still have?
No, I've got a couple of clients in Canada now, just because I don't market in the US. And in fact, since Brexit, what's happened in the UK, unfortunately, is everyone's become a bit more local, which on one hand is great. But I live in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, and so I knew when I moved here, because I did some market research, that I couldn't earn an income from my local town. And although I'm originally from London, I've still got London clients. What's happened is people have got to know me locally, and so I've now got quite a lot of work across Shropshire, which is quite a large county, and so I've got a lot of clients locally, and it's lovely to see these rural businesses, do well because I kind of bring my London, you can do it, kick-ass attitude with me, and so yeah, it's quite fun. But I work on Zoom, so I do work, internet with anybody who wants me. But I would say probably half my client base now is within 100 miles, and then probably 30% within the UK, and then 20% randomly around the world.
Interesting. Thanks so much for sharing that. And throughout these years of like coaching these businesses, which is that part of the coaching journey that you find the most rewarding?
I think it's for everyone's the same. It's that and they go, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. And when people's world change, I'm a business coach, but I love to make people more money. And although I get people wanting more time and freedom and all that kind of stuff, or just starting up, or I've been in business 20 years and I'm knackered, what I love to do is make people more money. That's my favorite thing to do. And as an addition to my business coaching, I also do money mindset work. And I've got a session that could just change someone's money mindset in an hour. So I did it this morning, and I was like, this person, like, what's the first thing that comes to you? And I say the word money, and she's like, stressed, inconsistent, never enough, ever, ever, ever. I was like, okay, that's quite serious. And that is how her business is presenting to me, which is why I've done the session. And at the end of the call, I'm like, what's the first thing that comes to your money? And she's like, Jenny, it's just all flowing and easy, and it's just gorgeous. Money's great. Why do people bitch about it? And, it's amazing to see that transformation in an hour. And I've done that for employed people, but generally I work with people who are self-employed, work for themselves. But yes, I just think that coaching, that kind of the old way of coaching is the answers inside themselves. But with business coaching, that doesn't work. But with money mindset, the answer is inside yourself, but you need someone externally to kind of show it to you and then come up with a solution. Because if you could come up with a solution, you'd have done it already.
What is because I find it so interesting, within an hour you can change the mindset. What is the common denominator when it comes to these thoughts that people have? What is that one thing that you usually deal with that actually gives that aha within 1 hour? And just like for anyone who's like doesn't know you yet and gets to see this podcast, get some value, and maybe gets to know what it's like to work with you.
I think is it true for everyone? So we have these thoughts about money that goes through our head, and what most people say to me is four-letter words or, some degree of negativity. But they never really stop and think, oh, that's my thoughts about money. And every time I go buy a coffee or pay a bill or get my, kind of spreadsheet out to look at my finances, that's the thoughts that I'm bringing. And so all I do really is shine a spotlight on it and then go, well, you don't really want that one. But beliefs are held in the body and the heart as well as the mind. And so to change a belief, you've got to get someone to recreate it. And it's not something like people come up with affirmations that are great, but that's just kind of positive on top of negative. What you have to do is take the negative out and then put a positive statement in. And I haven't managed, and if I had, I would be selling it as a course, but I haven't managed yet to enable someone to create their own new belief, because you can't tell whether it's right or not. So her notes were, when I said to her, come up with a new belief, she came up with, it's always enough. But that's just the opposite of what she had. And then she came up with, I earn well, which is just, and then I kind of got her to kind of think more broadly and to concentrate more on feelings. So she came up with things like, so lots of times people's new money beliefs are natural things like a river or a tree. Or my favorite one is, I had a lady, she was a very smart London lady in a little suit. And she said, my money belief is a picnic. And it made her laugh. And she kind of giggled with laughter. And I said to her, you've never been on a picnic, have you? And she went, certainly not. You couldn't imagine her sitting on a, bit of grass ever. And I said, never go on one because it completely ruin it, with the wind and the mud and the sand. But every time she said the word picnic, it made her laugh. And so now she associates that laughter, which relaxes you and is positive, with money, as opposed to stressed or terrible or negative. And so it's just coming up with something that relaxes you, makes you laugh, so that when you're dealing with money, you just approach it a different way. And because it's a belief, you do it automatically. So as coaches, most coaches can change beliefs. So I encourage all coaches to work on money mindset, because wouldn't that make a difference to the world? But yeah, so you just come up with something. So my client today, she came up with, I am the river. She's like, I'm the river, I'm in the flow. She said, it's like, I am part of the river, I'm part of the world. I can earn money, and she got so excited. And she literally was like, great, I'm going to go and sort some stuff out. And she went off to sort her finances out because she was so excited about it. And so I think that is the power of coaching, is to just change someone's belief and to do it with important things like money, relationships, even success. If we all were successful in our businesses, we all earned a living in our businesses, we all managed our money well, we all managed our lives well, it would just make such a difference, wouldn't it, to the world,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much for all of this. And now, when it comes to the people or the businesses that you work with, because I mentioned, early on, I mentioned that generally the podcast that we have is the coaches that are listening, the majority of it. However, some of the coaches that we have had on guests on the podcast, they share the podcast episode with their audience. So some of that audience is also listening, which could also be these small businesses. When it comes to them, is there a specific ideal client profile that you typically like to work with? In your intro, we also talked about this a little bit, and I mentioned from therapists to designers. How would you specify the ideal client profile for you? I'm wondering if there's a specific industry, demographic, goal that kind of unifies them in one.
I would say my clients are the kind of local people that want to make a difference. They're very natural, unpretentious. They're the kind of people that donate, to the local charity. They generally run a service business. Just because I've done this a long time, I can choose my clients. The service businesses I find more interesting. And also what I love is a client where if you change their mind, it changes their whole world. And so I love working with therapists, and it doesn't matter whether it's a physiotherapist, a massage therapist, any kind of therapist, because they're always trying to look after people and take care of people, and they're not very good at managing the money, which is the bit I really enjoy. So get me together with them, and I get massage therapists earning $5,000 a month, working 4 days a week. Easy for me. That's like easy work. But I also have bigger clients where I just work with the owner, and we work on them building their business skills and building their mindset. But generally, service businesses, just not I would say nice, normal people. It's what my client base,
Mm-hmm. And how does the program look like for people that decide to work with you? Is there a certain length that they work with you in? Is it customized for each one, or is there a certain program that I actually follow?
So it's both a program and it's customized. So I do get one-off clients, like for the money coaching, people come to me, or for just, they save up and go, right, I want some help. I mean, I'm not expensive, but when you get a local business, they might save up. But most people work with me for a year. And what we do is upgrade every area of their business in a year, from their money mindset, the business finances, to who their customer is, how they market themselves. So I do a lot of personality types to get people to market themselves in a way that suits them.
Mhm.
We also I cover the legal, um, we cover operations. I'm a not fan of working very hard. Like, you need to work, but I'm not you should work really. I've moved from London. I live in a beautiful place. Want a nice life. I work 4.5 days a week, 4 days a week maybe. And so I'm a huge fan of people not working weekends and evenings, and getting their income and their life and their business to work within a reasonable week. So I get a lot of the overly busy people. And so we just cover all of that in a year. So by the end of the year, everything works better. You've got a nice life, you've got a lot more money, and you're massively more confident in business. And so it's a set program. We vary it. So if someone comes to me, they've got a financial emergency, we sort that out first. If someone's overly busy, we sort that out first. If someone looks like, I need more clients, we sort that out first. And so it's 12 sessions. We just adapt it to what they need. And obviously, I've done this a while, so if they need anything else, we just pull it out the tool bag and they get it. Yeah.
And since they
But
are
actually, I'm going to say something about that, because I was talking to a client yesterday, and I had a new client sign up yesterday, and I explained I only work with people for a year. And after a year, I tell them that's it. Because I think people sometimes struggle to start things, but lots of people struggle to finish things. So I think it's really important that you spend a year growing your business, but then you go off and spend a year on your health or getting a social life, because we often neglect other part of our businesses. So I work with people for a year, but generally only for a year.
interesting. So you feel like after a year, what if they still need you?
Well, I had one who was really like, please don't leave me. And she's like, please, please don't leave me. And so I said to her, look, try it for a month. I
Mhm.
said, and if you're really desperate, come back to me. But I think you'll be fine. And I said, you need to be like a little baby bird. You need to be pushed out the nest, because you'll be fine. And I know you'll fly, but you're just not confident enough now. But if you come back in a month, if you can't manage it. And also, in a month's time, she went, you were right, of course, Jenny. And that was the end of it. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. And so where do you find, obviously they are all, most of them are local, some of them are outside of the country. Where do you find your clients? What marketing channel is working well for you right now?
So what's working well for me right now is in person. So social media's dropped, Google's dropped because of AI. And so what I found is going out and meeting people in person is working really well. So just local business networks where it's your kind of clients that are there, your kind of businesses. So I like working with both men and women, but women tend to run really quite exciting, authentic networking. And so I find if I go to them, particularly if I do a talk on something, usually that will get me 2 clients. And
Mhm.
I don't need very many clients to keep in you know keep going. So I find in-person networking works, but most of my clients come from referrals. So you work with somebody and they're like, who did you work with? And then they refer
Mhm.
me, and it goes like that. That's why I have clients in random places, because it's like that, it's my cousin or my friend, or so I get.
So it's a more of a natural approach to marketing, not very aggressive, very natural. Thinking about this, I wanted to also ask you in terms of goals for the coaching business. How do you see your coaching business in the next 1 to 3 years? Are you working towards like this type of growth that is slow, natural, or are you thinking of like keeping it, maintaining it where it is? Whatever the goal is, actually, feel free to share it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've been, because I really have a lovely life. I've been
Mhm.
nagged by my clients. They want to know how to do 10,000 a month. So they said to me, Jenny, can you work out how to do 10,000 a month so you can show us? So I was like, oh, all right then. And I thought, okay, I've got to get off my arse and do some proper marketing now. And so I kind of worked out what I needed, did a little plan, and realized, I use 7 stages of selling.
Mhm.
As you say, my marketing is very unaggressive. It's very natural. But all I did was just go, okay, I'm missing up the follow up. So I want to just follow people up a little bit more. And so I kind of sent off about 3 emails and told a couple of people I was doing a 10 grand month. So I had a bit more capacity. And so I've stopped working at finishing at 4 now. And I literally achieved it 6 weeks later. And the thing that made the most difference there was mindset. It was like, right, okay, you need to do 10 grand a month. Come on, sort your head out. Let's stop being lazy. Let's stop just enjoying life so much. You've got to work a bit harder. And the mindset with a bit of follow up and just a few like, oh, I need to update that website, social media a little bit, kind of upgrade it a little bit. I made the 10 grand in 6 weeks. And then I was like, that was nice. And then I had a couple months off. And then I thought, oh, okay, I decided this year I'm definitely going to just do 10 grand every month and just get on with it. Because there's so many coaches, on the social media advertising, they do this much. And a lot of them, I followed a lot of them up, and a lot of them aren't doing what they said they're doing, or they're doing something very specific and well targeted, which would work. But yeah, I just thought, come on, let's do the 10 grand a month, and then we can get everybody earning more money and doing that. And I'm kind of thinking, should I do the million? But it's just a choice of, do I want to go and spend the weekend dancing, or do I want to just like kind of do a little bit of planning on my business? And I probably should get a coach to be a bit more ambitious. But yeah, so I think 10 grand a month, that's my plan. And the plan is to do in-person work at the moment because the social stuff's not working as well. But you do need, for me, it's like I meet someone and then they follow me on social for a bit, and then they book when then they book that way. And I think that's working quite well in this AI era as it's going through its kind of changes. But I do utilize newsletters, and I have done Facebook ads and things like that in the past. But yeah, 10 grand a month, that's my plan.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And right now, thinking about it, when it comes to investments for your coaching business, now I did mention Facebook ads, but I want to know, what other investments have you done that you feel like actually they were good investments or they helped the business grow? On the other side, you could also share any bad investments, if there's any, that you feel like, oh, that was a terrible one. Because I feel like it's good to also know what could be a bad investment for every coach who's going to listen.
Most of my bad investments have been previous businesses. So I had a music business that was very dodgy. But, you have to try these things, and you don't know till you've tried. What I'd say, any bad investments? I haven't had any bad investments, but I've had a lot of clients who've come to me or met me somewhere, had a chat, and I've given some advice, and then someone's aggressively marketed them, and they've gone and paid 2 to 20,000 for some coaching or for some solution, and then they come back to me because it hasn't worked. And then they pay me £300 and it works fine, and they regret that. So I've had a lot of clients who've made regretful investments, and I do encourage people not to invest thousands and thousands into programs that they haven't tested. I think if the freebie or the entry level doesn't give you a result, then don't invest further. But if it does, it could be a good investment, but you've got to match it. So what happens is often startup or early business owners trying to buy programs designed for much more successful businesses. So a 20 grand coaching program might be perfect for my client in Canada who's turning over $500,000 a year. It will match exactly. But if you're living on credit card debt and haven't got a single client, it's not a good investment. And so I think you've got to match your investments to where you are in your business journey, because I do think technical help and coaching is very valuable, but it does need to match where you're at.
Yeah.
I see that a lot as bad investments. Good investments, I just think I keep upgrading. So this year I've just spent a year on got some new photos. So it was 4 photo shoots over the year. That's just ended. I'm now investing in some copywriting to improve the copy on everything I do. So I take quite a measured approach, and I always keep your investment under 10% of your expenses. Just kind of measure. So keep improving things, but don't go mad. Don't be ridiculous. Don't, it's not the get rich quick scheme. Coaching is finding clients, giving them what they want. And I think with the cost of living, like everyone's here, I did a talk a couple of weeks ago, which is ignore the cost of living crisis, just be successful. Because everyone's panicking, particularly the shops in my little town, going, oh, we've got the footfall, people aren't buying. But I've got 2 shops in town who are clients. I don't want more shops, but they're local. And they're both roaring success, couldn't be busier, doing fantastically. And so, it is about matching what you offer to your client. So I've actually offered a reduced offer at the moment, which is aimed at practical people. It doesn't include a report, and they just get to grill me for an hour and a half and answer all their questions and go, do this, 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 and this. They take the notes, they go away, They get a recording, that's it. But I don't do the research and the report that I would normally do for clients. And I've offered it at a reduced price because of people are stretched and what they want is the answers, and they're willing to forgo the convenience. And so I think it is very much about matching what your clients want and giving them exactly what they want in the way that they want it. And then any business can be successful if you do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And right now, what would you say is a challenge for you? What is a challenge that you're trying to solve for next in your coaching business?
I think that's the challenge, persuading everyone that it's not the end of the world, and that we're very lucky not to be living in a country where there's war or devastation or restrictions. We're very fortunate, and that we ought to really appreciate that much more and make the most of it. I think the challenge is, for me, the mindset. Get off your ass, go do some work. Help more people. That's the challenge for me.
So I was thinking more of in terms of getting to that 10 grand, you already have gotten to, you just want to do it consistently, right? That is the only gap. But you don't see any challenge getting there right now. You just keep doing what you're doing and eventually it's just going to be there, right?
To be honest, business is quite simple. You trade goods and services, that's it. Everything else is you getting out the way to make that happen. So, when I don't have any issues working with clients in terms of coaching. Maybe I need a coach, I don't know. No, I've got, they're quite happy. They get massive results, I have fantastic testimonials. For me, as I say, it's just getting off my arse. But there's no point I tried getting a coach a couple of years ago, but I rang rings round him. He said to me, he goes, "You're just winding me up here. You're not going to do anything, are you?" I went, "No, really not." And so yeah. So that's why I've got the practical help with the writing rather than get a coach. But no, there's no challenges. Life is great, It's
I love
beautiful,
it.
sunny. The economy's we've got an economy. People are buying stuff. People want to grow, develop, enjoy life. Yeah.
I love how positive like your views are in general. I was like, there's no stress to it, there's no problem. World is just like life's good in general. So I like your approach, and I can see why a lot of clients like to work with you, and hopefully more that potentially listen to this podcast get to work with you if they're locally within United Kingdom. So yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that. And my final question is, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What advice would you give to other coaches like yourself who are looking to scale their impact?
Solve clients' problems. Just what are your clients' problems? If you can fix it, they'll pay you. If you come up with I used to work with startups. I've done thousands of startups, but I stopped working with them, like promoting them, because they come to me, "Jenny, I've got this dream," and where I live quite near Wales. It's like, "I've got this dream to open a healing centre in Wales," and I'm like, "But they're in Wales. They don't need a healing centre. It's beautiful." And where they want the healing centre is in London, and you're not going to get the Londoners to go out there. Not enough of them. And so they've got the dream for themselves, but they've not thought through that actually there's no clients within 100 miles who want to go to that, because they live in Wales, they don't need a healing centre, and they don't have the contacts in London to get people to come up to go do it. They want to live in a healing centre. And that kind of dreamy fantasy life, I think, is a mistake in business. It's that whole, build it and they will come. I'm like, no, they probably won't, so I wouldn't do that. What I would do is go, well, what do you want? And then give it to them. So I'll give you a story. So I used to hire out, my first business was hiring out tablecloths for weddings, events, and film shoots. And one of my clients was doing a very posh event in a polo, I don't know what you call them even, polo stadium. And he urgently needs some more tablecloths. So I had to go down and take them. And when I got down there, I saw all the waitresses were struggling to open the packets because we used to knot them. And they couldn't get to the packets. They didn't have scissors. And so all the waitresses were angry trying to get into these packets. And I thought, okay, that's a real problem because they're in the middle of the field. There's no scissors. There's no shops. There's nowhere to solve this. So I went back and I spent 2 days. I got a knot book out of the library and I went and talked to the butchers because they're very well known for their knots. And I spent 2 days with different types of string and different types of knots to get the perfect fastening so that it was secure enough to load in and out of the van, but that people could undo it without needing scissors. And because I could see that was a problem for my client, so I went and solved it. And then about 2 years later, this particular client rang me up and said, I really hate you. I was like, what have I done? And he said, I can't change suppliers because my waitresses went on strike because we hired from somebody else and they couldn't get into the packets without scissors. So they refused to set the tables. And he said, I had to drive like 50 miles with a pair of scissors to go and sort this out. He said, so I'm going to have to come to you for my business. Would you like, and can you cope with another £50,000 worth of orders a year? And I went, yeah, that'd be great. I can. And so it's solving people's problems. And, people think of, the big problems, but when you really solve every little problem, so it's so easy to buy and it suits them so well. So it's a complete win-win. You love delivering it. They love having it. And everyone's so happy to have purchased it and sold it and enjoyed it. When you get that win-win, then you've got a fantastic business. So find that win-win where you solve clients' problems.
Amazing advice. Find the problem, give a solution, make sure there's a market for it, go out and solve it. It's that simple. I really like that advice. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
And actually, if I could just add, don't spend any money. So I used to help unemployed people set up in business and they had no money. And if they didn't earn money the first week, they didn't eat. So it really had to find your clients. So don't spend any money till you found your clients. That's
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jenny. And for anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn, Jenny Bracelin, business coach. They'll be able to find you there. They can also go into the website, jennybracelin.co.uk. They'll find you there as well. Is there any other way people could reach out to you and connect with you?
They're the best ways, but I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, though not often.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jenny. It was lovely having you on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.